What if everything we think we know about history is missing key pieces of the puzzle? Picture the Pyramids of Giza, massive, precise, and built with technology that somehow vanished from the archaeological record. These stone giants have stood for over 4,000 years, yet we still can't fully explain how ancient civilizations constructed them with such breathtaking accuracy. And that's just one of countless enigmas whispering to us from the shadows of time. From lost cities to cryptic artifacts, our past is littered with riddles that refuse to be solved, no matter how hard historians and scientists try. Today, we're diving deep into 25 of the most perplexing ancient mysteries, cases so baffling, they've left experts scratching their heads for centuries. Think about it, entire cultures rose and fell, leaving behind clues we're still struggling to decipher. The Nazca Lines in Peru, carved into the earth on a scale so vast they can only be seen from the sky. Who were they meant for? The Antikythera Mechanism, a 2,000-year-old device with gears more intricate than anything else from its era. How did ancient Greeks possess such advanced knowledge? These aren't just curiosities, they're gaping holes in our understanding of human ingenuity, proof that our ancestors were far more sophisticated than we often give them credit for. And with every discovery, new questions emerge, pulling us deeper into the labyrinth of the unexplained. That's the thrill of history's greatest unsolved cases. They challenge us to question, to wonder, and to keep searching. Because for every mystery we unravel, another 10 seem to take its place. So if you've ever felt that itch of curiosity, that burning need to peel back the layers of time, you're in the right place. We're about to journey through forgotten empires, enigmatic relics, and phenomena that defy logic. Some of these stories might send chills down your spine. Others will leave you in awe of what humanity once achieved and lost. But one thing's for certain, by the end, you'll never look at history the same way again. One of history's most chilling disappearances began with a simple word carved into a tree, Croatoan. In the late 16th century, 115 English settlers vanished without a trace from Roanoke Island, leaving behind only this eerie clue. The colony, established in 1587, was meant to be England's first permanent foothold in the New World. Governor John White returned from a supply trip to England in 1590 to find the settlement deserted, homes dismantled, no signs of struggle and no bodies. Just that single word, Croatoan, etched into a wooden post along with the letters C.R.O. carved into a nearby tree. What happened to these men, women, and children? Theories abound, but none offer definitive answers. Some believe the colonists integrated with the Croatoan tribe, a local indigenous group, possibly seeking survival after harsh winters and food shortages. Archaeological evidence, like European objects found among Native American artifacts, supports this idea. Others suggest they were massacred by hostile tribes or Spanish forces, though the lack of skeletal remains makes this unlikely. Then there are the more outlandish explanations: curses, alien abductions, even supernatural vanishings. The mystery only deepens when you consider the bizarre details. Food stores were left untouched, and the settlers had agreed to leave a Maltese cross as a distress signal if they were forced to flee. No such mark was found. The lost colony of Roanoke remains America's oldest unsolved enigma, a ghost story woven into history. Every excavation, every new piece of evidence seems to raise more questions than answers. Were the settlers victims of circumstance, or did they willingly vanish into the wilderness? Why leave a single word as the only clue? 4 centuries later, we're still searching, not just for bones or artifacts, but for the truth behind one of history's most haunting unanswered questions. Now imagine holding a book filled with pages of writing no one can read, illustrations of plants that don't exist, and celestial charts that defy known astronomy. This is the Voynich Manuscript, a 15th century enigma that has stumped linguists, historians, and even artificial intelligence. Named after the bookseller who rediscovered it in 1912, The manuscript is written in an unknown script, its curling symbols arranged as if they form a language, yet every attempt to crack its code has failed. The illustrations only deepen the mystery, delicate drawings of unfamiliar herbs, nude women bathing in green liquid, and zodiac circles with constellations that don't match any known system. For over a century, experts have tried everything to decipher it. World War II codebreakers armed with techniques used to crack Nazi ciphers hit dead ends. Modern algorithms trained on hundreds of languages found no patterns. Some theories suggest it's a lost dialect or an elaborate cipher, while others argue it's pure gibberish, an ancient hoax meant to deceive wealthy collectors. But why would someone go to such lengths? The vellum pages made from high-quality animal skin and the meticulous artistry suggest this wasn't just a prank. Could it be a fragment of forgotten knowledge, perhaps an alchemist's secret notes or a healer's coded recipes? The most tantalizing clue lies in the plants. Many resemble real species, but with twisted features, roots that coil like serpents, leaves with impossible veins. Were these symbolic, or did they represent flora lost to time? Then there's the astronomical section with circular diagrams that might track celestial events or something far stranger. Even carbon dating adds to the puzzle. The manuscript is definitively medieval, but its content feels alien. One thing's certain, the Voynich Manuscript refuses to surrender its secrets. Every breakthrough claim crumbles under scrutiny, leaving us with more questions. Was it meant to be understood at all, or is it a mirror reflecting our endless desire to solve the unsolvable? Until someone deciphers its eerie script, it remains a ghost of history, whispering in a language we may never comprehend. Buried beneath the waves for 2,000 years, a corroded lump of bronze and wood would rewrite history's understanding of ancient technology. Discovered in 1901 by sponge divers off the coast of Greece, the Antikythera Mechanism was initially dismissed as a nautical oddity until researchers realized they were holding the world's first analog computer. About the size of a shoebox, this intricate device contained over 30 bronze gears, precisely engineered to track celestial movements with staggering accuracy. It could predict solar eclipses, model the irregular orbit of the moon, and even calculate the dates of the Olympic Games. The sophistication of its design wouldn't be matched again until the 14th century, leaving historians with a burning question. How did the ancient Greeks achieve such mechanical brilliance, and why was this knowledge lost for over a millennium? The mechanism's gears tell a story of impossible precision. X-ray scans revealed tiny teeth, some just 1 millimeter wide, interlocking in ways that mimicked mathematical ratios known to the Babylonians. One gear even accounted for the moon's elliptical orbit, a concept not formally documented until Kepler in the 17th century. But here's the real shock. Nothing resembling this complexity appears again in the archaeological record. Roman shipwrecks from the same era carry statues and coins, not geared calculators. Even Leonardo da Vinci's sketches of mechanical devices look crude by comparison. So who built it? The leading suspect is Hipparchus, a Greek astronomer who mapped the stars, or perhaps Posidonius, a polymath known to have combined philosophy with engineering. Yet no ancient texts mention such a device, and its creator's identity remains as enigmatic as the machine itself. What makes the Antikythera Mechanism truly haunting is the shadow it casts over history. If the Greeks could craft this, what else did they know? Were there other devices lost to time, or was this a lone masterpiece, a flash of genius snuffed out by war or the collapse of civilizations? Some speculate its secrets were guarded by elite scholars, perishing with the Library of Alexandria. Others wonder if its very complexity doomed it a technology too advanced for its era, like a seed planted in barren soil. The irony is profound. A machine built to track time became a relic of time's cruel habit of erasing brilliance. Today, reconstructions prove it worked, but the original still whispers of a golden age of knowledge we might never fully recover. Stretching across the arid plains of southern Peru, the Nazca Lines are one of archaeology's most bewildering creations. Imagine standing on the ground and seeing nothing but rocks and dust, then soaring into the sky to discover colossal figures etched into the earth. A hummingbird with wings outstretched, a spider with legs coiled, even a humanoid figure nicknamed the astronaut, all spanning hundreds of feet. These geoglyphs, carved between 200 BC and 600 CE by the Nazca people, defy logic in their precision and scale. The lines themselves are shallow grooves scraped into the dark desert surface to reveal lighter sediment beneath. But here's what stumps researchers. How did a culture without flight design these intricate shapes to be seen only from above? Theories about their purpose range from the practical to the fantastical. Some scholars argue they functioned as an astronomical calendar, aligning with solstices or constellations to track planting seasons. Certain lines do point to celestial events, but others meander without obvious patterns. Then there's the alien runway hypothesis, wild speculation that the straight, mile-long geometric strips were landing strips for extraterrestrials. While entertaining, there's zero evidence to support it. A more plausible explanation ties them to rituals. The Nazca may have walked these paths during ceremonies, their designs serving as sacred pathways to communicate with gods or ancestors. Broken pottery found near the lines suggests offerings were made there, hinting at spiritual significance, but the real marvel lies in their construction. Without aerial views or advanced tools, the Nazca achieved near-perfect symmetry and proportion. Researchers think they used simple stakes and ropes to scale up small models, a technique still employed by traditional artisans today. Yet even that doesn't fully explain how they maintained such accuracy over vast distances. Wind erosion should have erased these fragile lines centuries ago, but the region's stable climate and lack of rain preserved them like a time capsule. What lingers most isn't just the how or why, it's the unsettling beauty of these desert drawings. Were they messages to the heavens or maps of a cosmos we no longer understand? The Nazca left no written records, only these silent giants waiting for us to decode their secrets. Every flyover reveals new lines hidden for millennia under the shifting sands. And with each discovery, the mystery only grows deeper, reminding us that some ancient voices speak in shadows and stone. Just when we thought the Nazca Lines had given up all their secrets, modern technology peeled back another layer of mystery. In 2020, drones equipped with high-resolution cameras buzzed over the Peruvian desert, revealing 168 previously unknown geoglyphs, some etched so faintly they'd been invisible to satellites. Among them, a surreal 200-foot-long snake, a pair of leggy dancers, and a bizarre humanoid figure clutching what looks like a club. These discoveries didn't just expand the gallery of Nazca art, they shattered assumptions about its scope. Archaeologists now believe the lines may have been created over 1,000 years earlier than previously thought, stretching back to around 500 BCE. But with every breakthrough comes a ticking clock. Climate change has begun altering the desert's microclimate, triggering unseasonal rains that erode the fragile topsoil. In 2022, a freak storm washed away sections of a trapezoid shape that had survived intact for 2 millennia. The irony is crushing. The same drones exposing hidden lines could also document their decay. Researchers are racing to scan the entire region with LiDAR, a laser mapping technology that can detect grooves invisible to the naked eye before more designs vanish. But can technology finally solve the Nazca enigma? AI algorithms have analyzed the geoglyphs' patterns, searching for astronomical alignments or hidden messages. One theory suggests the lines form a labyrinthine map of underground water sources, vital in this parched landscape. Yet every data set seems to spawn more contradictions. Some new figures overlap older ones in chaotic layers, hinting that different cultures may have added to the canvas across centuries. What's clear is that the Nazca Lines were never a single project with one purpose. They're a palimpsest, a desert parchment rewritten by generations. The recent discoveries prove we've underestimated both their complexity and their fragility. As the climate crisis accelerates, these ancient marvels face a new threat. Not the slow erosion of time, but the abrupt chaos of a changing world. The lines that survived 2,000 years of wind now battle forces their creators never imagined. And the haunting question remains, are we finally smart enough to understand them, or will we watch them fade just as the answers seem within reach? 2,400 years ago, the philosopher Plato penned a story that would haunt humanity for millennia. The tale of Atlantis, a mighty island nation swallowed by the sea in a single day and night. In his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, he describes a circular metropolis of concentric rings, its walls plated with precious metals, its people masters of engineering and naval power. According to Plato, Atlantis waged war against ancient Athens before the gods punished its arrogance, sending earthquakes and floods to drag it beneath the waves. But here's what keeps historians awake at night. Was this a moral fable, a warning about hubris, or could it have been rooted in a real catastrophe? The search for Atlantis has taken explorers from the Mediterranean to the Caribbean. One compelling theory points to Santorini, a volcanic island whose explosion around 1600 BC devastated the Minoan civilization. The eruption was apocalyptic, 4 times more powerful than Krakatoa, blanketing the region in ash and triggering tsunamis that may have inspired flood myths across cultures. Archaeologists have found Minoan ruins on Santorini buried under 60 feet of pumice, their vibrant frescoes frozen in time. The island's geography even mirrors Plato's description, a central caldera surrounded by ring-like landforms. But skeptics counter that Plato placed Atlantis beyond the Pillars of Hercules, modern Gibraltar, far from the Aegean. Then there's the Bahamas hypothesis. Off the coast of Bimini, divers have photographed underwater stone formations dubbed the Bimini Road, rectangular blocks that some claim are remnants of Atlantis. Satellite imagery reveals larger geometric patterns on the ocean floor, fueling speculation about sunken structures. Yet geologists argue these are natural beach-rock formations shaped by millennia of currents. Another twist comes from the Richat structure in Mauritania, a massive circular feature in the Sahara that matches Plato's dimensions. Could shifting deserts have transformed a coastal city into a landlocked ruin, distorting its legend over centuries? The most haunting possibility is that Atlantis isn't one place but many. Civilizations from the Indus Valley to Doggerland vanished beneath rising seas as glaciers melted at the end of the last ice age. Perhaps Plato's story is a collective memory of these catastrophes, passed down through generations and embellished with each retelling. Or maybe Atlantis was always fiction, a philosopher's thought experiment about the fragility of empires. What lingers isn't just the question of its existence, but why the legend endures. Atlantis represents our deepest fears and fascinations, the specter of lost knowledge, the allure of hidden worlds, the dread that prosperity can vanish in an instant. Whether metaphor or meteorology, its mystery taps into something primal, the understanding that beneath our feet and beyond our maps, the past holds secrets we may never fully uncover. Beneath the worn limestone casing of the Great Pyramid of Giza, modern technology has uncovered secrets that Pharaoh Khufu likely never intended us to see. In 2017, an international team of scientists called Scan Pyramids made a staggering announcement. Using cosmic ray imaging, they detected a mysterious void, at least 100 feet long, hidden deep within the pyramid's core. This wasn't some narrow crack or construction gap. The chamber, dubbed the Big Void, sits directly above the Grand Gallery, perfectly aligned with the pyramid's central axis. Then, in 2023, more scans revealed a smaller, L-shaped anomaly behind the original entrance, a space that might have remained sealed since the pyramid's construction 4,500 years ago. What could these hidden rooms contain? Theories swing wildly between the pragmatic and the fantastical. Some archaeologists propose their structural features relieving chambers designed to distribute the pyramid's immense weight away from the king's chamber below. Others whisper about undiscovered burial sites, suggesting Khufu's real sarcophagus might still lie concealed, untouched by tomb raiders. Then there's the fringe idea that these voids served as resonance chambers, amplifying specific sound frequencies for rituals or even harnessing energy, a notion fueled by the pyramid's strange acoustic properties. When struck, the stones in certain chambers produce eerie, sustained tones. But here's the puzzle that keeps Egyptologists divided. Why won't authorities allow direct exploration? The answer lies in a delicate dance between science and preservation. Drilling through ancient stone risks damaging delicate artifacts or destabilizing the structure itself. Infrared scans in 2021 showed worrying temperature fluctuations in newly exposed areas, proving how fragile the pyramid's internal climate remains. There's also the ethical dilemma: should we disturb a sacred site just to satisfy curiosity? Recent breakthroughs might offer a compromise. Japanese engineers are developing snake-like robots capable of navigating inch-wide cracks, while non-invasive neutrino scanning could soon map the voids in unprecedented detail. For now, these chambers remain tantalizing shadows on a screen, proof that even after centuries of study, the Great Pyramid still guards its oldest secrets. Every scan peels back another layer, but the deeper we look, the more we're left wondering. Are we uncovering history or stepping into a 4-millennia-old labyrinth designed to keep us mystified? Deep in the jungles of Costa Rica, scattered like marbles dropped by a giant, lie hundreds of stone spheres so perfectly round they defy belief. Ranging from the size of a melon to over 8 feet in diameter and weighing up to 16 tons, these enigmatic artifacts were carved with astonishing precision by the Dikwis culture between 300 and 1500 CE. Discovered in the 1930s when United Fruit Company cleared land for banana plantations, the spheres immediately baffled archaeologists. How could a pre-Columbian people without metal tools or advanced mathematics create objects of such geometric perfection? And why would they expend such effort on stones with no obvious practical purpose? Theories about their function read like a catalogue of human curiosity. Some researchers argue they were astronomical tools, aligned to mark solstices or track celestial events, an idea supported by clusters found near ancient settlements, often arranged in patterns mirroring constellations. Others believe they served as territorial markers or status symbols for elite families, their size and number reflecting power. Local legends add another layer, claiming the spheres were weapons of the gods or containers of mystical energy. The truth may be even more intriguing. Recent excavations at sites like Finca 6 revealed spheres placed in geometric formations near ceremonial plazas, suggesting they played a role in rituals. One particularly haunting discovery showed a group of spheres arranged to mimic the path of the sun during equinoxes, their shadows creating a moving sundial across sacred ground. What stumps experts most isn't their craftsmanship, though that's remarkable enough, but the Dikwis people's silence. Unlike the Maya or Inca, they left no written records, and Spanish colonists made no mention of the spheres in their accounts. When archaeologists first studied them, many had been moved from their original positions, bulldozed or rolled into rivers by plantation workers, severing any contextual clues. Even more frustrating, the stone itself offers no answers. The spheres were carved from gabbro, a volcanic rock quarried miles away, yet no tools or workshops have been found nearby. How did the Dikwis transport these massive stones without wheels or pack animals? Laser scans reveal something even more puzzling. The spheres aren't just roughly round. They achieve near-flawless sphericity with surface variations of less than 2 millimeters. Modern technology has only deepened the mystery. In 2014, researchers using ground-penetrating radar discovered that some spheres contain hidden internal structures, irregularities in density that hint at embedded objects or deliberate design flaws. Were these imperfections ritualistic, or did they serve some unknown engineering purpose? Meanwhile, indigenous oral traditions speak of a time when stones were soft, hinting at lost techniques or even forgotten technologies. The most sobering realization: we may never know. Acid rain and looting have eroded many spheres, and countless others were destroyed during 20th century land development. What remains is a landscape of silent sentinels, their smooth surfaces refusing to yield secrets. They challenge our assumptions about ancient societies, suggesting a sophistication we're only beginning to grasp. Were they maps of the cosmos, conduits for communication with the divine, or something beyond our modern imagination? Each perfectly rounded stone seems to whisper the same unsettling truth, some chapters of history close before we learn to read them. In a quiet corner of Baghdad's National Museum sits an unassuming clay jar that could rewrite the history of technology. Discovered in 1936 near the ancient village of Qujat, this 2,000-year-old artifact looks ordinary at first glance, a 13-centimeter tall vessel with a stopper made of asphalt. But inside lies the twist, a copper cylinder housing an iron rod, separated by traces of an acidic substance like vinegar or wine. When German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig first studied it, he made a startling claim. This wasn't just a storage jar. It was a battery. Reconstructions prove Koenig's theory holds water. Fill the jar with an electrolytic solution, and it generates roughly 1 volt of electricity, enough to produce a faint tingling sensation or, more intriguingly, to electroplate objects with gold or silver. Ancient Mesopotamians were master metalworkers, crafting intricate gilded jewelry as early as 250 BCE. Could they have used these primitive cells to coat statues or ornaments with precious metals? The idea isn't far-fetched. Similar electroplating techniques appear in artifacts from the Parthian era, though no direct evidence links them to the battery. Yet the mystery deepens with every unanswered question. If these were batteries, why have only a dozen been found across 2 millennia of Mesopotamian history? Why no wires, no tools, no depictions of their use? Skeptics argue the jars might have held sacred scrolls, their metal components serving as protective casings against moisture or pests. Others propose a ritual function, perhaps delivering mild shocks during religious ceremonies to simulate divine contact. The Baghdad battery's isolation in the archaeological record makes it even more enigmatic. No ancient texts mention such devices, and no workshop sites hint at mass production. The most compelling counterpoint comes from the jars themselves. Recent experiments show their voltage is too weak for consistent electroplating, raising doubts about their practicality. But here's the haunting possibility. What if we're looking at a prototype, a lone inventor's experiment lost to time, or a technology abandoned when its creators fell to conquest? The truth may lie somewhere between revelation and relic, a glimpse of ancient ingenuity that never fully caught on. For now, this humble clay jar remains a whisper from the past, challenging our assumptions about how much our ancestors truly knew. High above the city of Cusco, the fortress of Sacsayhuaman looms like a stone puzzle crafted by giants. Its massive limestone blocks, some weighing over 120 tons, fit together so precisely that not even a razor blade can slip between them, all without a single drop of mortar. The Inca built this architectural marvel in the 15th century, but the real shock isn't its scale, it's the precision. The stones curve and interlock like pieces of a cosmic jigsaw, their edges softened into seamless waves as if the rock itself melted into place. How did a civilization without iron tools or the wheel achieve such perfection? The answers might rewrite what we know about ancient engineering. Start with the stones themselves, quarried from miles away, then hauled up steep Andean slopes. Archaeologists once assumed teams of laborers dragged them using ropes and ramps, but experiments show even modern machinery struggles with blocks this size. A chilling local legend offers another explanation. the Incas possessed a plant-based liquid that could soften stone, molding it like clay. Spanish chroniclers recorded indigenous accounts of such a substance, though no physical evidence survived. Then there's the sonic theory. Some researchers suggest the Inca used concentrated sound waves to vibrate stones into position, a technique hinted at in their oral traditions. While it sounds like science fiction, ultrasonic tools exist today for cutting precise shapes in hard materials. The bigger mystery lies in the wall's design. Each block has unique angles, yet they lock together with earthquake-resistant stability. During Peru's frequent tremors, the stones shift slightly, then settle back into place, a feature modern engineers call dynamic masonry. Even stranger, some corners show drill-like holes or grooves that resemble tool marks from advanced machinery. Mainstream archaeology attributes these to bronze chisels and stone hammers, but the smoothness defies explanation. Were the Inca working with lost technology, or did they inherit knowledge from an even older culture? One theory points to vitrified stone sections where surfaces appear glazed, as if exposed to extreme heat. Could the Inca have used directed energy, like sunlight focused through mirrors, to soften edges for fitting? Spanish records mention a golden disk in Cusco's Temple of the Sun, said to concentrate light with unnatural intensity. The disk vanished during conquest, leaving only speculation. What lingers isn't just awe at the Inca's skill, but the unsettling possibility that Sacsayhuaman's secrets died with them. The site was still under construction when conquistadors arrived, its original purpose half-finished. Was it a fortress, a temple, or something else entirely? The walls don't just challenge our understanding of history, they whisper of a mastery over stone we've yet to rediscover. Every perfectly fitted block seems to ask, how much ancient wisdom lies buried beneath the dust of time? Look closely at Sacsayhuaman's walls, and you'll notice something bizarre. Dozens of stone blocks feature art, nipple-like protrusions dotting their surfaces. These small bumps, often called nubs or knobs, seem deliberately carved, yet their purpose remains hotly debated. Some archaeologists argue they were practical, lifting points for ropes during construction, worn smooth by centuries of weathering. Others propose a far more electrifying theory. These knobs could have functioned as energy conductors, channeling natural electromagnetic forces through the stone. The idea isn't as outlandish as it sounds. Modern studies reveal the limestone around Cusco contains high concentrations of quartz, a mineral known for its piezoelectric properties. When subjected to pressure, say, from seismic activity, quartz generates small electrical charges. Could the Inca have harnessed this phenomenon, using the knobs as primitive electrodes in a vast stone-built energy grid? The mystery grows when you compare Sacsayhuaman to other megalithic wonders. Halfway across the world, Cambodia's Angkor Wat features eerily similar knobs on its sandstone blocks. Local guides claim they were used to align stones during construction, yet no one knows for certain. Even more striking are the polygonal walls of Japan's Osaka Castle, where interlocking stones boast identical protrusions despite being built thousands of years after Sacsayhuaman with no known cultural connection. Then there's Egypt. The unfinished obelisk in Aswan, abandoned in its quarry, shows rows of these knobs along its sides, suggesting they played a role in the carving process. Why would civilizations separated by continents and centuries develop the same enigmatic feature? One radical hypothesis ties these knobs to a lost global construction technique. Experiments with frequency and vibration reveal that certain resonant sounds can temporarily reduce friction between stone surfaces, making massive blocks easier to maneuver. Ancient cultures from Peru to Egypt revered sound in their rituals. Did they also use it as a tool? The knobs might have served as anchor points for harmonic devices, their placement calculated to create standing waves that softened the stone. Supporting this, Spanish accounts describe Inca ceremonies where priests struck precisely tuned drums, claiming the vibrations could make mountains bow. Yet the most compelling clue might lie in the knob's arrangement. At Sacsayhuamon, they're not random, they cluster along load-bearing edges, mirroring stress points in modern engineering. This hints at an advanced understanding of physics, as if the builders mapped force distributions millennia before computers. Recent laser scans show something even stranger. Some knobs align with underground water channels, suggesting they could have acted as moisture sensors, signaling when seismic shifts altered the water flow, a primitive early warning system for earthquakes. Whether lifting aids, energy nodes, or sonic tools, these knobs represent a whisper of forgotten knowledge. They force us to question not just how the Inca built Sacsayhuamon, but whether we've underestimated ancient science altogether. Every unexplained bump on these stones is a silent challenge, daring us to rethink what we assume about the past. And as long as they cling to those walls, they'll keep their secrets, waiting for the day we finally learn to listen. Among the fragile parchment scrolls discovered in the Dead Sea caves, one stands apart not for its spiritual teachings, but for what it promises: 64 secret stashes of unimaginable wealth. Known as the Copper Scroll, this 2,000-year-old document reads like a treasure hunter's fever dream, listing precise quantities of buried gold, silver, and precious artifacts down to the last talent and shekel. Unlike its religious counterparts, it's engraved on metal, a deliberate choice to endure while other scrolls crumbled. But here's what sends chills down historians' spines. Every attempt to follow its cryptic directions has led to dead ends, empty pits, and whispers of curses. Was this a real inventory of sacred temple treasures hidden from Roman invaders, or an elaborate ancient hoax? The scroll's instructions are maddeningly specific yet frustratingly vague. One passage describes the ruin in the valley of Achor where silver lies buried, under the stairs leading east. Another mentions 65 talents of silver hidden in a cave with 2 entrances near Jericho. The problem: these landmarks either no longer exist or were common terms applied to multiple locations. Even the measurements defy modern logic. Distances given in cubits could refer to anything from a person's forearm length to a standardized royal measurement lost to time. Early expeditions in the 1950s and 60s took picks and shovels to sites matching the descriptions, only to find barren earth or Roman-era debris. The most tantalizing clue came in 1988, when archaeologist John Allegro claimed to have decoded a reference to the Temple of Jerusalem's lost menorah, but his dig uncovered nothing but disappointment. Who compiled this metallic treasure map, and why? Theories split into 2 camps. Some scholars believe it documents treasures plundered by the Jewish rebels during the First Jewish-Roman War, hidden as Jerusalem burned in 70 CE. The scroll's mix of Hebrew and Greek loanwords suggests Roman influence, possibly scribbled by a priest-turned-resistance fighter. Others argue it's a tally of the Second Temple's sacred objects, smuggled out before the Babylonians sacked Jerusalem 6 centuries earlier, meaning the treasure could have already been found and melted down millennia ago. Then there's the wild card: the Copper Scroll might be a decoy, its misleading clues meant to send looters on wild goose chases while the real treasures lay elsewhere. Modern technology has only deepened the enigma. In 2016, researchers using spectral imaging uncovered faint grid lines beneath the text, possibly a cipher or an even older layer of writing. Meanwhile, georadar surveys of proposed dig sites showed tantalizing underground voids, but funding and political tensions in the West Bank have stalled excavations. The scroll's final twist: it ends abruptly with a chilling note. In the pit nearby, to the north, is a copy of this document with explanations and details. No such duplicate has ever been found. What lingers isn't just the lure of gold, but the psychological grip of the unsolved. The Copper Scroll taunts us with the possibility that somewhere in the Judean desert, beneath shifting sands and centuries of silence, lies a king's ransom waiting to be uncovered. Or perhaps the real treasure was the act of hiding itself, a testament to desperation, faith, and the lengths humans will go to protect what they hold sacred. Until someone cracks its code or stumbles upon a rusted chest in some forgotten cave, the scroll remains history's most tantalizing what if. Beneath the rolling hills of Zhejiang province in China, an underground marvel lies hidden, not a natural cave system, but a sprawling network of man-made caverns carved with impossible precision. The Longyu Caves, discovered in 1992 by a curious villager draining a local pond, consist of 36 subterranean chambers covering over 30,000 square meters. Each hall stands supported by massive pillars, their walls and ceilings decorated with uniform chisel marks that form intricate parallel grooves, as if a single obsessive craftsman spent lifetimes perfecting every inch. But the real shock, this complex required excavating nearly 1 million cubic feet of stone, yet not one historical document, tool fragment, or even a speck of debris from its construction has ever been found. Walking through these caves feels like stepping into a ghost city. The chambers align with perfect symmetry, their sloped walls meeting at sharp 60-degree angles, a feat requiring advanced knowledge of structural engineering. Some rooms feature carved staircases leading to deeper levels, while others contain pools that eerily reflect the ceiling's geometric patterns. The pillars themselves tell a silent story. Spaced at exact intervals, they bear tool marks so consistent, archaeologists initially assumed they were machine-made. But carbon dating places their creation in the Han Dynasty, around 200 BC, centuries before the invention of powered tools. The mystery spirals deeper when you ask practical questions. Where did all the excavated stone go? Modern calculations suggest the removed material could fill 2,000 Olympic swimming pools, yet no nearby mountains show signs of quarrying. How did workers illuminate these pitch-black depths? No soot stains from torches or oil lamps mar the ceilings. And most haunting of all, why would a civilization invest such staggering effort without leaving a single record of its purpose? Local legends offer poetic but unverifiable clues. Some whisper the caves were imperial hideouts or ancient granaries, while folktales describe them as the work of a dragon king sculpting his underwater palace. Recent studies only deepen the enigma. Laser scans reveal acoustic properties in certain chambers. When struck, the walls produce resonant tones at specific frequencies, hinting at potential ritual use. Other researchers note similarities to underground cities like Turkey's Derinkuyu, though the Longyu Caves lack any evidence of human habitation. The most compelling theory suggests they were never meant to be seen. Unlike tombs or temples, these spaces bear no murals, inscriptions, or artifacts, just the sheer, overwhelming fact of their existence. Perhaps their purpose wasn't to commemorate or house, but to disappear, sealing away knowledge or secrets we can no longer grasp. Today, the caves remain as silent as the day they were rediscovered. Every chisel stroke on those walls seems to mock our modern arrogance, the assumption that ancient peoples couldn't achieve what we now can. The Longyu Caves don't just defy explanation, they force us to confront how much history might be hiding in plain sight, waiting beneath our feet for the right moment to whisper its truths. In the year 1520, an Ottoman admiral named Piri Reis compiled a world map that would baffle historians for centuries. Drawn on gazelle skin and rediscovered in 1929 in Istanbul's Topkapi Palace, this artifact shows coastlines with eerie accuracy, including one chilling detail no 16th century sailor should have known. There, at the southern edge of the map, lies what appears to be the northern coastline of Antarctica ice-free. The problem: Antarctica's ice cap formed millions of years ago, and the continent wasn't officially discovered until 1820. So how did a Turkish cartographer depict land no human had supposedly seen? The map's precision is its first mystery. Piri Reis himself noted that he synthesized older sources, including charts from Columbus's voyages and, more intriguingly, maps dating back to Alexander the Great's era. The depiction of South America's eastern coast is unnervingly accurate down to the Amazon's curvature, but the real controversy lies in the southern landmass. Some researchers argue it matches subglacial scans of Antarctica's coastline under its mile-thick ice, particularly the Queen Maud Land region. If true, this implies ancient civilizations had access to geographic knowledge predating recorded history, possibly from a forgotten seafaring culture that mapped the world before the last ice age. Skeptics, however, see a different story. They point out that the map lacks longitude lines, causing distortions when projected onto modern coordinates. What appears as Antarctica could simply be a misaligned version of South America's extended coastline, a common error in early cartography. The ice-free detail might just be artistic license, filling blank spaces with speculative landforms. Even Piri Reis's own notes describe southern lands as very hot, contradicting Antarctic conditions. Then there's the compass rose dilemma. The map's orientation aligns with medieval Islamic cartography, which often placed south at the top. Rotate it conventionally and the Antarctica shape becomes less convincing. Modern software analyzers yield conflicting results. Some algorithms show a 70% match to subglacial topography, while others deem it statistically insignificant. What lingers isn't just a debate over coastlines, but a deeper question about lost knowledge. If Piri Reis did copy fragments of ancient maps, who made them? Could the Babylonians, Phoenicians, or another maritime culture have circumnavigated Antarctica thousands of years before Cook? Or is this simply a case of modern eyes seeing patterns where none exist? The map's true enigma isn't ink on parchment. It's the tantalizing possibility that history's greatest explorations might be footnotes in a much older story, one we've only begun to decipher. The Piri Reis map holds more riddles than just its phantom Antarctica. Look closer and you'll find the Amazon River depicted with startling precision, its winding course and even the sprawling estuary where fresh water meets the Atlantic are rendered in uncanny detail. Keep in mind, 16th century explorers barely charted the river's mouth, let alone its inland stretches, yet here it is flowing across parchment as if traced from a satellite image. Even more bizarre, the map labels the region Antillia, a name tied to medieval myths of a lost Atlantic island. Did Piri Reis blend hard geographic fact with legend, or was he copying sources that themselves mingled observation and folklore? Then there are the creatures. Along the map's edges, sea monsters twist through inked waves, not just decorative flourishes, but carefully drawn hybrids of known animals and pure imagination. One beast near South America bears the body of a lion with webbed claws, while another resembles a giant sea snake with antlers. These weren't mere artistic whims. Medieval cartographers often used such illustrations to mark dangerous waters or uncharted territories, but the Piri Reis map takes it further. Some creatures align with specific latitudes where sailors reported unusual phenomena like bioluminescent surges or magnetic anomalies. Could these mythical beasts encode real navigational warnings passed down through generations of seafarers? The most compelling clue to the map's secrets lies in its own marginal notes. Piri Reis wrote that he consulted 20 older charts and 8 Mappa Mundi, including materials from the Library of Alexandria, a repository of ancient knowledge burned centuries before his time. Among his sources were maps attributed to Christopher Columbus, who supposedly possessed a mysterious parchment from the east showing lands beyond Europe. This raises a spine-tingling possibility. What if classical civilizations like the Phoenicians or Minoans had mapped the globe long before the Renaissance, their surviving scraps later stitched together by Ottoman scholars? Modern researchers have tried to reverse engineer the truth. When cartographer Arlington Mallory superimposed the Piri Reis map onto a modern projection in the 1950s, he claimed it matched Ice Age coastlines, particularly where Antarctica's landmass would have extended before glacial melt. Critics dismissed this as coincidence, but a 2021 study using AI pattern recognition found something peculiar. The map's distortions align less with 16th century errors and more with a cylindrical projection centered on ancient Egypt's longitude. Was this deliberate or proof that Piri Reis copied far older templates adjusted to a long-lost prime meridian? What emerges isn't just a debate over geography, but a collision of timelines. The map's impossible details suggest knowledge that shouldn't exist, echoes of an age when sea levels were lower, continents were connected, and perhaps, just perhaps, a forgotten civilization saw the world whole. Whether those whispers are real or just the tantalizing ghosts of human imagination, one thing's certain: the Piri Reis map remains a mirror, reflecting how much history we've lost and how much we've yet to rediscover. Stretching across the windswept plains of Brittany, the Karnak stones form one of Europe's most mesmerizing prehistoric puzzles. Over 3,000 megaliths stand in eerie, near-perfect rows, some towering twice the height of a person, others worn low by millennia of rain and wind. Arranged with military precision across four main alignments: Meinek, Kermario, Kerleskan, and Le Petit Meinek, these stones date back to around 4,500 BCE, older than Stonehenge and the Pyramids. But unlike those iconic sites, Karnak's purpose remains stubbornly opaque. No local legends explain their placement, no burial artifacts lie beneath them, and no carvings hint at their creator's intent. They stand silent, like a code written in stone, waiting for us to crack it. One of the most compelling theories ties the stones to celestial navigation. Certain rows align with solstice sunrises and moonrises, while others may track the movement of constellations like Pleiades, a star cluster sacred to many Neolithic cultures. Archaeoastronomers note that the angles between the stones' lines mirror astronomical key points, suggesting they functioned as a colossal calendar or observatory. Farmers could have used these alignments to track planting seasons, or priests to predict eclipses. But why carve this knowledge into the landscape instead of passing it down orally? The answer might lie in catastrophe. Some researchers propose the stones acted as seismic detectors, their positions subtly shifting during earthquakes to warn of tectonic unrest. Brittany sits atop fault lines, and communities reliant on agriculture would need advance notice of ground tremors that could devastate crops. Then there's the social hypothesis. The sheer scale of Karnak requiring generations of labor hints at a communal project unifying scattered tribes. Imagine clans gathering annually to erect stones, forging alliances through shared toil. The alignments might mark territorial boundaries, pilgrimage routes, or even competitive displays of power between rival groups. Yet this raises another riddle. Why does local folklore ignore them entirely? Breton myths teem with tales of fairies and giants, but the stones go unmentioned until the 18th century, as if their memory was deliberately erased. Recent excavations add haunting layers to the mystery. Ground-penetrating radar revealed subterranean chambers and hearths near the stone rows, suggesting rituals or feasts took place there. But no human remains or tools have been found, ruling out burial grounds or workshops. Even more perplexing are the stone circles dotting the landscape's smaller rings that intersect the main alignments like punctuation marks in a lost sentence. Their irregular spacing defies astronomical patterns, hinting at a second, unrelated purpose. Theories collide like waves on Brittany's shores. Were the stones a Neolithic supercomputer processing cosmic data, a territorial marker for an ancient culture obsessed with order, or something more primal, a place where the land itself was worshipped, each megalith a conduit between earth and sky? The silence of Karnak is its most unnerving feature. These stones outlasted languages, empires, and religions, yet they refuse to speak. Every alignment, every weathered surface seems to whisper the same maddening truth. Some secrets aren't meant to be solved. They're meant to make us wonder. Buried beneath the scorching sands of China's Taklamakan Desert lies a mystery that rewrites the story of ancient migration, the Tarim mummies. Discovered in the early 20th century, these remarkably preserved corpses date back to around 1800 BC. Their features strikingly Caucasian with high cheekbones, long noses, and even blonde or reddish hair. Wrapped in finely woven woolen textiles and buried in boat-shaped coffins, they seem utterly out of place in what's now the Xinjiang region. But it's their DNA that truly upends history. Genetic testing reveals they hailed not from East Asia, but from the distant steppes of Europe or the Near East. How did these people end up thousands of miles from their ancestral homelands? And what does their presence say about the untold connections between ancient civilizations? The most compelling clue lies in their language, or what little we've reconstructed of it. Scraps of writing found near the mummies' burial sites suggest they spoke Tocharian, an Indo-European tongue linked to ancient Celtic and Germanic languages. This makes them linguistic cousins to the Hittites of Turkey and the early Greeks, despite living on the doorstep of China. Their very existence shatters the assumption that East and West developed in isolation until the Silk Road. Trade routes might have been far older than we thought, with Bronze Age nomads traversing continents long before history bothered to record their journeys. But the real enigma is how they got there. One theory traces their roots to the Afanasevo culture of Siberia, a group of early metalworkers who migrated eastward around 3000 BC. Others propose they descended from the mysterious Yamnaya people, horse-riding herders who spread across Eurasia. What's certain is that they thrived in the Tarim Basin for centuries, adapting to the harsh desert while maintaining distinct cultural practices. Their graves hold remnants of cheese, wheat, and medicinal herbs like ephedra, evidence of a sophisticated pastoral lifestyle. Yet by the time the Han dynasty rose to power, their lineage had vanished, absorbed into the broader population without a trace. The silence surrounding their disappearance is as haunting as their preservation. Unlike Egypt's mummies deliberately embalmed for the afterlife, the Tarim bodies were naturally dried by the desert's arid climate, their faces frozen in eerie repose. Some wear felt hats dyed vibrant shades of red and blue, while others sport leather boots lined with intricate patterns. A few even have tattoos swirling designs that mirror those found on Scythian warriors thousands of miles west. These details paint a picture of a people who bridged worlds, carrying fragments of Europe into the heart of Asia. Modern politics have only deepened the mystery. China's government, wary of ethnic tensions in Xinjiang, has sometimes downplayed the mummies' significance, framing them as curiosities rather than revolutionary evidence of ancient diversity. Meanwhile, nationalist groups in Europe have misappropriated them as proof of prehistoric Aryan expansion, a distortion archaeologists vehemently reject. The truth is far richer. The Tarim mummies aren't just outliers. They're proof that humanity's story was never simple, that borders we think of as fixed were once fluid, and that some of history's most pivotal meetings happened not in palaces or battlefields, but in the quiet footsteps of ordinary people crossing deserts we've forgotten existed. Their silent, sun-baked faces ask us one unsettling question: how many more chapters of our shared past are still waiting to be uncovered? The textiles clinging to the Tarim mummies aren't just remnants of clothing, they're a Rosetta Stone of lost craftsmanship. Woven from wool so fine it rivals modern fabrics, these garments feature intricate plaids and twills dyed with vibrant colors extracted from madder root and indigo. Some even bear patterns eerily similar to Celtic tartans, a stylistic echo spanning continents. But it's the felted wool hats that truly astonish, their pointed crowns mirroring designs found in Bronze Age burials as far west as the Caucasus. This wasn't just utility, it was a cultural signature, evidence of a textile tradition that may have bridged Europe and Asia centuries before the Silk Road's official birth. Equally revealing are the mummies' tools, bronze knives with curved blades resembling those of the Scythians, and wooden saddles suggesting advanced horsemanship. Among the graves, archaeologists uncovered small pouches filled with ephedra twigs, a stimulant used by steppe nomads to endure long journeys. These artifacts paint a picture of a people who weren't just passing through, but who established a thriving nexus of trade and technology in the heart of the desert. The Chinese government's initial reluctance to publicize these finds adds another layer of intrigue. When the mummies first gained international attention in the 1990s, officials minimized their significance, even restricting access to researchers. Some speculate this was tied to Xinjiang's political tensions. The idea of ancient Europeans in what's now China complicated narratives of the region's ethnic history. Others suggest it was simpler. These discoveries appended textbooks proving East and West were interconnected far earlier than previously acknowledged. Recent genetic studies have softened official resistance, but the mummies' legacy remains contentious. Museums in Xinjiang now display them with placards emphasizing their local adaptations, like millet found in their stomachs, a subtle nod to assimilation. Yet the woolen textiles, the tools, the very faces staring back through time tell a different story, one of crossroads of a world where cultures mixed long before borders were drawn. These mummies don't just challenge history, they force us to rewrite the map of human connection, stitch by ancient stitch. Deep in the temple complex of Dendera, Egypt, a peculiar relief carved into stone has sparked one of archaeology's most electrifying debates. Known as the Dendera Light, this enigmatic depiction shows what appears to be a bulbous glass object cradled in the hands of a priest, its interior coiled with a sinuous serpent resembling a glowing filament. At the base, a cable-like tendril connects it to a box held by another figure, while a squatting demon grips the base with both hands. To modern eyes, it's uncanny, an almost literal representation of an electric light bulb millennia before Edison's invention. But is this a testament to lost ancient technology, or are we projecting our own assumptions onto the past? Mainstream Egyptologists offer a decidedly less sci-fi interpretation. The relief, part of a larger tableau in the Temple of Hathor, aligns with well-documented religious iconography. The bulb mirrors the form of a lotus flower, a sacred symbol of creation and rebirth, while the serpent represents the god Harsomtus, often depicted as a snake emerging from the blossom. The cable is likely a stylized lotus stem, and the box at the base resembles ceremonial braziers used in rituals. Even the demon is identified as Her, a deity symbolizing infinity, clutching the base as a metaphor for eternal cycles. These elements fit neatly into the temple's broader themes of cosmic renewal, but for those who question conventional narratives, the explanation feels too convenient. Enter the fringe theories, where the Dendera light becomes exhibit for claims of ancient electricity. Proponents point to parallels with the Baghdad battery, another artifact controversially interpreted as a primitive power source. They argue the serpent's zigzagging form mirrors the filament in early incandescent bulbs, while the cable and box could represent a crude electrical circuit. Some even suggest the temple's underground crypts, devoid of soot from torches, were illuminated by such devices. The most radical interpretations propose the Egyptians harnessed arc lighting, citing the relief's subtle glow effect around the bulb as evidence of plasma discharge. Yet the skeptics strike back with practical objections. If the Egyptians had electric lighting, why no physical remnants, no wires, no batteries beyond the disputed Baghdad artifacts? Why does no contemporary text mention such technology? And why would they painstakingly carve instructions for its use rather than simply employ it? The counter-argument hinges on symbolism. Ancient cultures frequently depicted abstract concepts through composite imagery. The Dendera relief might be showing a light in the spiritual sense, Hathor's divine radiance, not a technical diagram. The debate reveals a deeper tension in how we interpret the past. We're quick to see our own world in ancient art, whether it's light bulbs or flying machines, but sometimes a serpent is just a serpent and a flower is just a flower. Or is it the Dendera light refuses to be dismissed entirely? Its eerie resemblance to modern technology lingers like a half-remembered dream, teasing us with the possibility that some secrets don't fade, they just wait for the right light to be seen anew. Scattered across the rugged hills of Laos's Xingguang Plateau, thousands of ancient stone jars silently guard one of Southeast Asia's most enduring archaeological puzzles. The Plain of Jars, a landscape dotted with massive, hollowed-out vessels ranging from 3 to 10 feet tall, has baffled researchers since its discovery in the 1930s. Carved from sandstone, granite, and even coral, these jars weigh up to several tons each, their rims often decorated with faint carvings of human figures or geometric patterns. Local folklore whispers they were crafted by giants to store rice wine after a great victory, but the truth might be far more mysterious and far darker. Archaeologists have uncovered chilling clues about their purpose. Excavations around the jars have revealed human bones, pottery fragments, and burial artifacts dating back to the Iron Age, around 500 BC to 500 CE. Some experts believe the jars functioned as funeral urns, holding decomposed remains before secondary burial, a practice seen in other ancient cultures. Others argue they were part of mortuary rituals, where bodies were placed inside to naturally decompose before bones were collected for cremation. The presence of nearby limestone caves, some containing scorched bones, supports this theory. But the sheer number of jars, over 90 sites containing more than 2,000 vessels, suggests a civilization capable of staggering communal effort, all devoted to honoring their dead. Yet the Plain of Jars holds more than ancient secrets. Decades of conflict have left the area littered with unexploded American bombs from the Vietnam War, turning archaeological research into a life-threatening gamble. Less than 10% of the sites have been safely cleared for study, leaving the majority untouched and undocumented, even with bomb disposal teams painstakingly working alongside archaeologists. Progress is achingly slow. In 2019, researchers using ground-penetrating radar made a grim discovery: underground clusters of smaller jars, possibly used for child burials, still surrounded by live ordnance. The juxtaposition is haunting: ancient burial rites frozen in time, guarded by modern weapons of war. Local legends add layers of intrigue. The jar's origins feature prominently in Lao oral traditions, with tales of a mythical king named Kunjuum who brewed rice wine inside them to celebrate his victories. Another story describes a race of giants who carved the vessels to store monsoon rainwater. While these narratives aren't literal history, they reveal how deeply the jars are woven into cultural identity. Even the name of the nearby town, Phonsavan, translates to Hills of the Jars, proof of their enduring grip on the collective imagination. Modern technology offers glimmers of hope. In 2021, scientists used uranium series dating to confirm some jars were placed as early as 1200 BCE, pushing their timeline back centuries earlier than previously thought. Drone surveys have also revealed previously unknown jar sites hidden beneath dense vegetation. But each answer spawns new questions: who coordinated the quarrying and transport of these massive stones across mountainous terrain? Why are certain jars adorned with carvings while others remain plain? And most hauntingly, what catastrophic event caused this civilization to vanish, leaving only their stone sentinels behind? The Plain of Jars is more than an archaeological site. It's a testament to human resilience, both ancient and modern. Farmers now tend rice paddies around the jars, children play near their weathered edges, and bomb disposal experts work tirelessly to reclaim the land for future generations. These silent stone vessels have witnessed millennia of history, from funeral rites to warfare, and they continue to challenge our understanding of the past. Every jar stands as a monument to the unanswered, a reminder that some mysteries aren't buried, they're waiting patiently in plain sight. Beneath the red earth of Laos's highlands, archaeologists armed with trowels and ground-penetrating radar are finally coaxing answers from the Plain of Jars, one bone fragment at a time. In 2023, our UNESCO-backed team made a breakthrough discovery, a cluster of 42 previously undocumented jars near Site 52, some still cradling skeletal remains and funerary offerings. Among the finds were delicate glass beads, iron tools, and ceramic vessels filled with charred animal bones, evidence of elaborate death rituals performed over 2,000 years ago. But the real revelation came from the bodies themselves. Analysis showed distinct patterns of deliberate bone breakage, suggesting the jars weren't just passive containers but stages in a complex multi-step burial process. Families may have temporarily stored loved ones' remains in the stone vessels while conducting secondary rites, later transferring selected bones to nearby caves for final rest. The artifacts tell a story of a society deeply connected to trade networks stretching far beyond Southeast Asia. Carnelian beads from India, bronze bells resembling those found in Vietnam, and glassware with Roman-era chemical signatures all turned up in recent digs. This wasn't an isolated culture, it was a vibrant hub where diverse influences converged. Even the jars themselves hint at far-reaching connections. Petrographic analysis revealed some were carved from sandstone quarried over 120 miles away, transported across mountainous terrain without wheels or pack animals. How researchers point to monsoon-fed rivers now dried up, which may have served as ancient highways for floating these colossal vessels downstream, but the most haunting finds are the smallest. In 2022, archaeologists working at Site 1 discovered a group of knee-high jars, their interiors holding the fragile bones of infants and children. Nearby, adult-sized vessels contained seashells carefully placed in spirals, a possible symbol of rebirth or protection for the journey to the afterlife. The emotional weight of these burials shatters any clinical detachment. These weren't just ritual objects, they were vessels of grief and hope, crafted by hands that understood loss as intimately as we do today. The work is painstakingly slow, not just because of unexploded ordnance, but because the soil itself holds fragile clues. At Site 26, scientists unearthed microscopic pollen grains clinging to jar interiors, identifying offerings of rice, millet, and medicinal plants like betel nut. In another trench, soil chemistry revealed traces of fermented liquids supporting local legends about ceremonial rice wine. Each discovery peels back another layer, revealing a culture that celebrated death as vividly as life. Yet for all these breakthroughs, fundamental questions remain. Why did this civilization vanish around 500 CE, leaving only their stone jars behind? Early theories point to climate shifts. Sediment cores show a dramatic drying of the region's rivers at that time. Or perhaps it was the rise of competing trade routes that marginalized the jar makers' network. The jars themselves offer no answers, standing silent as ever. But with each season's dig, their whispers grow louder, promising that the next shovel of earth might finally reveal the faces behind one of archaeology's most enigmatic peoples. High on a windswept plateau in southeastern Turkey, the stone pillars of Göbekli Tepe rise from the earth like silent sentinels of a forgotten age. Dating back an astonishing 12,000 years, this sprawling complex predates Stonehenge by 6 millennia and the Great Pyramids by 7. Its discovery in the 1990s shattered long-held assumptions about human history because, according to conventional wisdom, structures this sophisticated shouldn't exist from an era when humans were supposedly simple hunter-gatherers. Yet here they stand, 20 circular enclosures bordered by massive T-shaped limestone pillars, some weighing over 16 tons and carved with intricate reliefs of animals, scorpions, lions, foxes, and vultures frozen in stone. The craftsmanship is precise, the layouts deliberate, but the purpose remains one of archaeology's most hotly debated enigmas. The first shock is the timeline. Göbekli Tepe was built around 9,600 BCE, a period when humans were thought to be nomadic, surviving by foraging wild plants and hunting game. Agriculture, the spark that supposedly allowed humans to settle and build, wouldn't emerge for another 1,000 years. So how did these primitive people quarry, transport, and erect such colossal stones without domesticated animals or wheeled tools? One theory suggests they weren't as nomadic as we assume. The site sits near ancient wild wheat fields, hinting that hunter-gatherers here may have been semi-sedentary, returning seasonally to harvest nature's bounty. But that doesn't explain the labor force needed. Experiments show moving just one pillar would require hundreds of people working in unison, evidence of social organization far beyond what we imagined for the era. Then there's the symbolism. The animal carvings aren't random, they cluster in specific patterns. Enclosure D, for example, features a central pillar with a fox carved in high relief, its tail curling around the stone like a living creature. Nearby pillars bear snakes and cranes, their positions mirroring constellations as they would have appeared in the sky 11,000 years ago. Archaeoastronomers argue the site might have been an observatory, tracking celestial events to mark solstices or comets. This ties into the most provocative theory that Göbekli Tepe commemorates or warns of a cosmic catastrophe. Sediment cores from the region show traces of nanodiamonds and platinum, potential evidence of the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, a series of comet fragments that may have struck Earth around 12,800 BC, triggering a mini ice age. Could the temple's vultures, often associated with death in ancient iconography, symbolize a sky-borne disaster witnessed by its builders? The plot thickens when you consider what happened to Göbekli Tepe. Around 8000 BC, the entire complex was deliberately buried under thousands of tons of soil, preserved like a time capsule. Some speculate this was ritualistic, a symbolic death of the sacred site, while others propose practical reasons like protecting it from invaders or natural disasters. The most haunting possibility, the builders knew their knowledge was too dangerous to leave exposed, whether for spiritual or survival reasons. Modern excavations continue to append assumptions. In 2021, ground-penetrating radar revealed at least 15 more buried enclosures, suggesting Göbekli Tepe was just the center of a vast ceremonial landscape. Meanwhile, analysis of tool marks on the pillars reveals something startling. The earliest carvings are the most refined, as if the technology degraded over time. This inverts the usual narrative of human progress here, it seems. Mastery came first, then was lost. What lingers isn't just the mystery of who built Göbekli Tepe, but what it means for our understanding of civilization. Did religion and communal labor drive the birth of settled life, not agriculture? Were these hunter-gatherers not our predecessors, but our equals in ingenuity, their achievements erased by time? The stones offer no easy answers, only a humbling truth. The deeper we dig into humanity's past, the more we realize how much we've forgotten. The animal carvings at Göbekli Tepe aren't just decorative. They're a cryptic language etched in stone, whispering secrets from the dawn of civilization. Take the vultures, for instance. These birds dominate several pillars, their wings outstretched as if frozen mid-flight. In later Neolithic cultures, vultures were associated with death rituals, believed to carry souls to the afterlife. But here's the twist. At Göbekli Tepe, they're often paired with headless human figures. Some researchers interpret this as evidence of sky burial practices, where the dead were left exposed for scavengers to clean the bones. Others see something more celestial. When mapped against the night sky as it appeared 12,000 years ago, the vultures align with the constellation Cygnus the Swan, which ancient cultures linked to the gateway between worlds. Could these carvings be a star map guiding the departed to the heavens? Then there are the snakes coiled around pillars or slithering across their surfaces. In many early belief systems, snakes symbolized regeneration, a fitting motif for a site possibly tied to cycles of life and death, but their placement is oddly precise. On Pillar 43, a serpent arches beneath a scorpion, its body mirroring the curve of the Milky Way during the summer solstice. Archaeoastronomers suggest this wasn't random artistry but a deliberate astronomical record, marking celestial events that shaped the builder's worldview. Even more intriguing are the foxes, often carved in motion, their tails curled in identical spirals. Recent 3D scans reveal these spirals match the mathematical ratios found in natural vortexes, like whirlpools or tornadoes, phenomena that might have been seen as divine manifestations. The site's deliberate burial adds another layer of mystery. Around 8000 BC, Göbekli Tepe's enclosures were filled with 700 cubic yards of rubble, like a time capsule sealed against the ages. Soil analysis shows this wasn't erosion or neglect, it was a coordinated act. Some theorize the burial was ritualistic, akin to killing the sacred space to preserve its power. Others point to practical motives, protecting the site from invaders or natural disasters. But the most haunting possibility ties back to the carvings themselves. If they encoded dangerous knowledge, cosmic warnings, or shamanic visions, burying them might have been an act of preservation. Imagine a civilization realizing their sacred symbols were too potent to leave exposed, too vulnerable to misinterpretation by future generations. The sheer variety of animal depictions raises another question. Were these carvings spiritual or scientific? The builders might not have distinguished between the two. A scorpion carved beside a cluster of orbs could represent both a constellation and a mythological guardian. A boar's tusks might symbolize strength in the hunt while mapping lunar phases. This duality challenges our modern categories, suggesting Göbekli Tepe's creators saw the world as an interconnected web of meaning, where every creature held multiple layers of significance. Recent discoveries only deepen the enigma. In 2023, researchers using AI pattern recognition found that the spacing between certain carvings corresponds to harmonic frequencies, sound waves that induce trance states in humans. This aligns with indigenous shamanic practices, where rhythmic drumming and visual symbols guide vision quests. Were these pillars part of an ancient ritual theater designed to alter consciousness and commune with the spirit world? The answer might lie in the site's most perplexing feature, its silence. Unlike later temples, Göbekli Tepe lacks altars, hearths, or human remains. It wasn't a dwelling or a tomb. It was something else entirely, a place where symbols were the language, and the stones themselves were the teachers. What emerges isn't just a collection of carvings, but a testament to humanity's oldest impulse, to make meaning from the chaos of existence. The animals of Göbekli Tepe aren't just art, they're the first sentences in a story we're still learning to read. And with every new scan, every fresh excavation, we edge closer to understanding why these ancient architects chose to speak in stone, then bury their voices so carefully, as if some truths are too vast to stay uncovered for long. Isolated in the vast Pacific, Easter Island stone giants stand as silent witnesses to one of humanity's most staggering feats and most haunting collapses. The Moai, nearly 900 towering figures carved from compressed volcanic ash, weigh up to 80 tons each, with some reaching heights rivaling a 4-story building. For centuries, these statues stared inland from stone platforms called ahu, their hollow eyes watching over a civilization that somehow transported them miles across rugged terrain without wheels, draft animals, or even plentiful timber. The question isn't just how the Rapa Nui people achieved this, it's why their society crumbled shortly after, leaving behind clues as cryptic as the undeciphered Rongorongo script scratched onto wooden tablets. Start with the carving process, a marvel of patience and precision. The Moai were chiseled from the volcanic tuff of Roanoke, a quarry still littered with unfinished statues mid-creation. Archaeologists found stone picks called toki scattered nearby, their worn edges revealing how workers systematically gouged the rock, shaping faces with elongated noses and strong brows that may have represented deified ancestors. The real puzzle lies in transportation. Early theories suggested wooden sledges rolled on logs, but experiments proved this would have required more timber than the island could sustain. Then there's the walking hypothesis ropes tied to the statue's bases, teams rocking them forward in a controlled shuffle. When tested, this method successfully moved a replica Moai several hundred yards, but skeptics note the island's uneven terrain would have made long-distance treks perilous. The truth may lie in the roads themselves. Recent LiDAR scans revealed ancient pathways coated with crushed sweet potato, a slick surface that could have reduced friction. Combined with palm fiber ropes, this might have allowed teams to walk the statues while minimizing damage. Yet even this doesn't fully explain the energy expenditure. Calculations suggest moving a single Moai would have taken a month of labor from dozens of people, a staggering investment for a society already straining its resources. Which brings us to the collapse. For decades, the dominant narrative blamed the Rapa Nui for ecological suicide, chopping down all the island's palms to move statues, triggering soil erosion and famine. But newer evidence complicates this tale. Pollen studies show deforestation was gradual, not sudden, and coincided with the arrival of Polynesian rats that devoured palm seeds. Human remains from the era show no signs of mass starvation until after European contact in the 18th century. Dutch explorers in 1722 described a thriving population. By the 19th century, slave raids and introduced diseases had decimated the island. The Moai's toppling, once seen as proof of civil war, might instead reflect cultural shifts, ancestor worship giving way to new beliefs, or statues deliberately laid low to protect them from desecration. Then there's Rongo Rongo, the island's undeciphered script. Carved into wooden tablets, its glyphs resemble human figures, plants, and geometric shapes, but no Rosetta Stone exists to crack its code. Some linguists see parallels to Polynesian petroglyphs, while others argue it's a unique invention, possibly inspired after the Rapa Nui saw European writing. The few surviving tablets hint at cosmological or genealogical records, but without context, they remain as enigmatic as the Moai themselves. What lingers isn't just a mystery of engineering, but of resilience. The Rapa Nui didn't vanish, their descendants still live on the island, reviving traditions like the Tapoti Festival, where teams compete to honor their ancestors' skills. The Moai, too, are experiencing a renaissance. Since the 1990s, archaeologists have re-erected several statues using a blend of ancient techniques and modern cranes, proving their creators' ingenuity endures. These stone faces aren't just relics of collapse, they're testaments to a people who carved miracles from rock, then weathered storms we're only beginning to understand. Their silent gaze asks us to look beyond simplistic myths, to see not a cautionary tale, but a story of adaptation etched in volcanic stone. Off the coast of Japan's westernmost island, Yonaguni, lies a submerged enigma that has split scientists into warring camps. Rising from the ocean floor like the ruins of a forgotten city, the Yonaguni Monument is a massive, terraced structure with near-perfect right angles, flat platforms, and what appear to be staircases ascending its side. Discovered in 1986 by a diver searching for hammerhead shark viewing spots, this sprawling rock formation stretches over 165 feet long and 80 feet wide, its sheer walls dropping straight down into the abyss. The central question is as stark as the cliffs themselves. Is this nature's whimsical handiwork or the drowned remains of a civilization swallowed by rising seas 12,000 years ago? Geologists favoring the natural formation theory point to the region's active tectonic activity. The sandstone that forms Yonaguni's bedrock is prone to fracturing along straight lines due to seismic stress, creating the illusion of carved blocks. Marine geologist Robert Schoch, famous for his work on the Sphinx, argues that ocean currents have sculpted the monument's features over millennia, eroding the rock into stepped formations resembling architecture. He notes the lack of tool marks or any artifacts typically found at man-made sites: no pottery shards, no charcoal from ancient fires, no signs of human habitation. But the alternative camp, led by explorer Masaki Kimura, sees something far more deliberate. Kimura, who has dived the site over 100 times, catalogued features that defy easy geological explanation. Two round holes drilled into a terrace edge, precise right-angled corners meeting at 90 degrees, and what looks like a carved face resembling a moai on the structure's northern side. Most compelling are the twin megaliths near the monument's base, two massive stones placed side by side with a narrow, ruler-straight gap between them, as if designed for some unknown purpose. Kimura even claims to have identified quarry marks and a sunken relief of a turtle carved into one platform, though these interpretations remain hotly contested. The timeline adds another layer of intrigue. If human hands shaped Yonaguni, they would have done so when sea levels were dramatically lower around 10,000 years ago during the last ice age. This coincides with the hypothetical era of the Jomon people, a prehistoric Japanese culture known for their advanced pottery, but not typically associated with monumental architecture. Could an unknown branch of this society have built sprawling stone complexes before rising waters consumed their world? The idea isn't entirely far-fetched. Nearby underwater discoveries, like the Palau stone money circles in Micronesia, suggest Pacific Islanders had traditions of shaping stone in ways that later generations forgot. Diving at Yonaguni is like swimming through a Rorschach test. What you see depends on what you believe. The monument's central terrace could be a ceremonial plaza or merely a flat-topped outcrop. The staircase might be a ritual pathway or a series of coincidental fractures. Even the debate stakes are divisive. Proponents of the man-made theory argue mainstream science dismisses their evidence because it challenges established timelines of human civilization. Critics counter that seeing patterns in random formations is a well-documented psychological phenomenon, pareidolia, the same impulse that makes us see faces in clouds. Technology might eventually settle the argument. In 2021, a team from the University of the Ryukyus deployed 3D sonar mapping to analyze the monument's geometry, searching for mathematical ratios that would suggest intentional design. Preliminary data revealed some alignments matching solstice sunrises, but the full findings remain unpublished. Meanwhile, shifting ocean currents and coral growth steadily obscure the site, as if the sea itself is determined to reclaim its secrets. Whether a geological oddity or a relic of Atlantis like prehistory, Yonaguni stands as a humbling reminder. The ocean's depths may hold chapters of human history we're only beginning to suspect. Yonaguni isn't alone in its watery mystery. Across the globe, the ocean floor hides structures that blur the line between geology and legend. Take India's ancient city of Dwarka, submerged off the coast of Gujarat. According to Hindu texts, this was the glittering capital of Lord Krishna, a metropolis so grand it was said to be built by divine architects. Modern divers have found massive stone walls, pottery shards, and even what appears to be a submerged gateway artifacts dating back at least 3,500 years. The ruins align eerily with descriptions in the Mahabharata, which recounts how the city sank beneath the waves after Krishna's death. But here's the twist. Geological studies confirm this region did experience sudden sea level rises around 1500 BC, timing that straddles myth and measurable history. Unlike Yonaguni, Dwarka's human origins are less debated, but both sites force us to confront the same unsettling question. How many other cities lie forgotten beneath the waves? Then there's Bimini Road, the underwater stone pathway near the Bahamas that ignited Atlantis theories in the 1960s. This half-mile stretch of rectangular limestone blocks arranged in a near-perfect line looks unmistakably man-made. Skeptics argue it's beach-rock fractured by natural tidal forces, but core samples reveal something curious. The stones rest on pillars of smaller rocks, a technique used in ancient harbors to prevent sinking. The plot thickens when you consider local indigenous tales of a great flood that swallowed their ancestors' lands. Even Plato's Atlantis account mentions Bahamian-like islands beyond the Pillars of Hercules. Could Bimini Road be a fragment of a larger, drowned civilization, or just a geological oddity wearing the mask of myth? These submerged ruins collectively tap into humanity's oldest fear, the fear of being erased. From the Pacific's whispered legends of Mu to the Indian Ocean's speculated Lemuria, cultures worldwide share stories of continents lost to cataclysmic floods. The similarities are uncanny. Tamil poets describe Lemuria as a land swallowed by the sea after moral decay, while Pacific Islanders speak of Mu as a vast paradise punished by the gods. Modern geology confirms that sea levels rose nearly 400 feet since the last ice age, drowning coastal settlements globally. But did an entire advanced civilization vanish beneath those rising waters? The evidence is tantalizing but fragmentary. Sonar mapping has revealed drowned river valleys and what appear to be human-made structures off Cuba's coast, while underwater caves in Indonesia preserve handprints and tools from when the shelves were dry land. Yet the leap from flooded villages to hypothetical super-civilizations remains vast. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between, not a single lost continent, but a mosaic of sophisticated cultures whose achievements were fragmented and forgotten as the seas climbed. What ties Yonaguni, Dwarka, and Bimini together isn't just stone but storytelling. They're waypoints in humanity's shared narrative of cataclysm and memory. Whether geological accidents or echoes of real drowned worlds, these sites remind us that the past is never truly settled. It shifts with the tides, waiting for the right moment to resurface. And that's the real allure, not proving myths true, but understanding why we keep diving back to look. Rising from a Georgia pasture like a modern-day Stonehenge, the Georgia Guidestones stood as one of America's most cryptic and controversial monuments. Erected in 1980 under shroud of secrecy, this 19-foot-tall granite slab bore 10 directives etched in 8 languages, a chilling manifesto for post-apocalyptic survival. The first commandment set the tone: maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Others called for guiding reproduction wisely, unifying humanity under a new language and leaving room for nature's supremacy. But the real enigma wasn't just the message, it was the man behind it. A well-dressed stranger calling himself R.C. Christian approached the Elberton Granite Finishing Company with precise blueprints and an unusual request: build a structure that could withstand cataclysm and speak to future generations. He paid in cash, vanished upon completion, and left behind a puzzle wrapped in conspiracy theories. The name R.C. Christian sparked immediate intrigue. Scholars noted its resemblance to Christian Rosencreutz, the mythical founder of the Rosicrucians, a secretive 17th century order blending mysticism and science. Rosicrucian texts famously advocate planetary stewardship and moral evolution, mirroring the Guidestones' themes. Was this a symbolic nod, or did the true patron belong to a modern offshoot like the ancient mystical order Rosicrucis, which owned land near the site? Investigations hit dead ends. The bank handling transactions destroyed records after 7 years, and the only witness, banker Wyatt Martin, took the secret to his grave in 2022. Even the monument's alignment deepened the mystery. Its center stone featured a hole drilled to track the sun's solstices and equinoxes, while a slot in the capstone aligned with the North Star, suggesting celestial reverence beyond mere practicality. Then came the explosions. In the pre-dawn hours of July 6, 2022, security cameras captured a SUV ramming into the Guidestones before detonating an explosive device. The blast toppled one pillar while authorities demolished the rest later, citing safety concerns. The timing was suspicious just months after a Georgia gubernatorial candidate campaigned on their removal, calling them satanic. Online sleuths unearthed eerie connections. The bombing occurred exactly 42 years after their erection, and the number 42 holds occult significance in Rosicrucian lore. Stranger still, the Guidestones' final message, added in 2014, warned of an age of reason coming in 2022. Was this prophecy or coincidence? Debate raged over the monument's legacy. Conspiracy theorists saw a blueprint for global depopulation, noting the 500 million figure matched transhumanist ideals of a sustainable human census. New Agers hailed it as a beacon of enlightenment, while Christians decried its secular commandments as heresy. Yet the stone's most haunting quality was their ambiguity. Were they a warning, a guide, or a test? The lack of attribution forced viewers to confront the message itself, stripped of context. In 2023, fragments of the original slabs were repurposed into a new memorial, but the words remained selectively erased, as if society couldn't decide whether to preserve the riddle or bury it. What lingers isn't just the mystery of R.C. Christian's identity, but the uncomfortable questions the Guidestones posed. In an era of climate crisis and geopolitical fracture, their call for balance and restraint feels both prescient and unsettling. Were they a blueprint for utopia or dystopia, a relic of 20th century idealism, or a warning we've yet to fully decipher? The stones are gone, but their shadows stretch long, a reminder that the most enduring monuments aren't made of granite, but of ideas too provocative to disappear. The Georgia Guidestones didn't just spark curiosity, they ignited a firestorm of speculation that blurred the lines between conspiracy and legitimate concern. Almost immediately after their unveiling, whispers of a shadowy elite's involvement took root. The directive to cap global population at 500 million, less than a tenth of today's count, sent alarm bells ringing. Survivalists saw a thinly veiled blueprint for culling, while New World Order theorists pointed to the monument's multilingual etchings as proof of a planned globalist takeover. The lack of a clear author only fueled the frenzy. Who had the resources to commission such a project, and why hide behind a pseudonym straight out of occult lore? Deeper dives into the Guidestone symbolism unearthed eerie parallels. The Rosicrucian connection wasn't the only thread. Some noted similarities to the Georgia-based Lucis Trust, an organization once called the Lucifer Trust and linked to Theosophical Society mysticism. Its archives spoke of spiritual hierarchies guiding humanity, a concept that, when paired with the stone's commandments, sounded less like environmentalism and more like a manifesto for enlightened despotism. Then there's the timing. Erected in the shadow of the Cold War amid rising fears of nuclear annihilation, the stone's emphasis on balance and reason struck some as a coded survival manual for a chosen few. But the wildest theories came from the fringe. Internet sleuths superimposed the Guidestones' layout onto maps, claiming it aligned with ancient ley lines or marked the epicenter of a future, enlightened colony. Others alleged the monument was a beacon for extraterrestrial contact, citing its precise astronomical alignments as proof, the most persistent rumor. That R.C. Christian was a front for a wealthy tech mogul or banking dynasty. Figures like Ted Turner or the Rockefellers were frequently named, using the stones to run societal restructuring. These theories gained traction when a 2014 vandal sprayed the slabs with graffiti accusing elitist scum of plotting genocide. What made the Guidestones uniquely potent was their ambiguity. Unlike overtly occult symbols or government proclamations, they existed in a gray zone, just specific enough to seem intentional, just vague enough to defy definitive interpretation. This duality turned them into a Rorschach test for paranoia. Preppers stockpiled supplies, convinced the stones foreshadowed a planned depopulation event. Environmentalists, meanwhile, embraced them as a wake-up call about ecological limits. The monument's physical durability, rated to last millennia, only amplified its mystique. Here was a message meant to outlive its creators, waiting for some future civilization to decode its true intent. The bombing in 2022 didn't just destroy granite, it crystallized the stone's legacy as a battleground of ideas. Their absence now speaks as loudly as their presence once did. Whether a warning, a prophecy, or an elaborate hoax, the Guidestones forced uncomfortable questions about who gets to shape humanity's future and who decides which voices are carved in stone. Deep in the heart of Death Valley, where temperatures soar past 120 degrees and the cracked earth stretches endlessly, lies one of nature's most perplexing performances. Scattered across the bone-dry racetrack playa, 100-pound boulders carve long, snaking trails into the desert floor, some stretching hundreds of feet, as if they've slithered across the landscape unaided. No human hands push them, no animal disturbs them, yet there they sit, frozen in motion, their paths etched into the earth like the brushstrokes of an invisible artist. For decades, this phenomenon defied explanation, fueling everything from scientific debate to whispers of UFOs or supernatural forces at play. The first clue came in 2013, when researchers finally captured the stones in motion. Time-lapse footage revealed thin sheets of ice forming overnight during rare winter cold snaps, fracturing into floating panels as sunlight warmed the playa. When gusting winds hit just right, these ice sheets became nature's bulldozers, nudging rocks across the slick mud beneath. Mystery solved, not quite. While this explained some trails, it didn't account for the sheer variety of movement. Some rocks zigzagged abruptly, others crept in near-perfect straight lines, and a few even seemed to pivot mid-slide, leaving behind J-shaped grooves. Wind models struggle to explain such precision, especially for heavier stones requiring hurricane-force gusts to budge far beyond Death Valley's recorded speeds. Then there are the outliers rocks that moved without any ice at all. During a dry period in 2018, park rangers documented fresh trails despite temperatures too warm for ice formation. This reignited alternative theories, some venturing into speculative territory. Geophysicists proposed magnetic anomalies given the playa's rich iron deposits. Could subtle shifts in Earth's magnetic field interact with the rock's metallic content, creating imperceptible forces? Others pointed to the playa's infrequent but torrential rains, suggesting saturated clay could liquefy into a near-frictionless slurry, allowing rocks to slide under the gentlest breeze. But the most haunting trails are the ones that defy all logic. A handful of stones appear to have moved uphill, their paths climbing slight inclines against gravity's pull. These cases remain unexplained, sparking folklore among locals. Some swear the playa is a vortex of untapped energy, while others joke the rocks are just tired of waiting for rainfall. Even NASA took notice, studying the site as an analog for Martian environments where similar, sliding stone phenomena have been observed from orbit. What makes the sailing stones truly captivating isn't just the mystery of their movement, but what they represent. An elegant reminder that nature still holds secrets we've yet to unravel. For every trail explained by ice and wind, another twists unexpectedly, whispering that the playa hasn't surrendered all its truths. The rocks don't just slide, they taunt us, daring science to catch up with their silent, erratic dance across the desert stage. And until every last trail is decoded, they'll remain both a lesson in patience and a testament to the wild, untamable heart of our planet. For over a century, the sailing stones of Death Valley taunted scientists with their impossible journeys. Then, in 2013, a team equipped with time-lapse cameras and GPS sensors finally caught them in the act. The footage was revelatory, sheets of winter ice, barely half an inch thick, fractured into massive panes as morning sunlight warmed the playa. When desert winds kicked up, these ice rafts became nature's freight trains, pushing rocks across the slick mud at speeds up to 15 feet per minute. Some stones even left high-centered trails, their undersides plowing grooves as they were dragged like reluctant passengers, case closed not quite. While this explained most movements, the devil, as always, was in the details. Take the playa's heavyweight champions boulders like the 300-pound Karen, whose meandering path stretches nearly 600 feet. Ice and wind alone struggle to account for such Herculean effort. Calculations suggest moving rocks this size would require winds exceeding hurricane force, yet Death Valley's gusts rarely break 50 miles per hour. Then there's the puzzle of coordination. On rare occasions, multiple stones slide in perfect parallel, as if choreographed, while others veer off at sharp angles. The ice sheet theory doesn't explain why some rocks dance while others remain stubbornly stationary under identical conditions. The outliers are even stranger. In 2016, researchers documented a cluster of stones that moved during a dry, ice-free week. Their trails fresh, their motion unexplained. One particular basalt rock, nicknamed the Rebel, carved a zigzag path uphill, defying gravity and logic. Satellite data confirmed no unusual wind activity that day, leaving geophysicists scratching their heads. Some speculate these anomalies point to overlooked mechanisms, perhaps electrostatic forces building up in the playa's mineral-rich crust, or subtle seismic vibrations loosening the stone's grip. Others wonder if rare, perfect storm conditions a precise combo of rain, temperature, and wind create micro-environments we've yet to model. The most haunting evidence lies in the playa's archives. Comparing aerial photos from the 1950s reveals trails that predate modern observation, some forming intricate loops and spirals no current theory can replicate. A few even cross older paths at right angles, suggesting the playa has hosted this silent ballet for millennia. What secrets are written in these intersecting tracks? NASA interest offers a clue. The agency studies racetrack playa as an analog for extraterrestrial environments, where similar phenomena occur on Mars's dry lake beds. If the stones hold keys to understanding alien landscapes, their mystery transcends earthly curiosity. What makes the sailing stones endure as icons of the unexplained isn't their defiance of physics, it's their refusal to fit neatly into any single narrative. For every trail explained, another twists into obscurity. They remind us that even in an age of high-resolution cameras and satellite surveillance, nature reserves the right to surprise. The playa stage is set for the next act. The stones merely wait for their cue to move again, leaving fresh riddles in their wake. Far to the northwest, where icy winds howl across barren fjords, the ruins of Norse settlements in Greenland stand as silent witnesses to one of history's most perplexing vanishing acts. Established by Eric the Red around 985 CE, these thriving Viking communities endured for centuries, farmers tending cattle in meadows that once stretched green between glaciers, traders bartering walrus ivory with Europe. Then, sometime in the early 15th century, every last settler disappeared. No chronicles recorded their fate, no mass graves marked their end. Just abandoned longhouses with tools still leaning against walls, and the haunting final entry in a church ledger from 1408. The heathen came from the sea. This single line has fueled centuries of speculation. Who were these attackers? Why did an entire civilization nearly 2,000 strong vanish without a trace? Climate change emerges as the most plausible culprit. Ice core data reveals Greenland's weather grew increasingly erratic in the 14th century, with plunging temperatures shortening growing seasons. Layers of volcanic ash from distant eruptions further blocked sunlight, pushing Norse farms to the brink. Analysis of skeletal remains shows worsening malnutrition, with adults shrinking several inches over generations as diets shifted from protein-rich dairy to meager seal meat. Yet similar hardships hadn't wiped out the settlements before. Why abandon Greenland now after weathering 400 years of hardship? The answer might lie in the settlers' stubbornness. Pollen studies confirm they clung to European farming methods, refusing to adopt Inuit hunting techniques even as their pastures froze. Their very survival strategy dependent on livestock, and trade with Europe became their downfall when ship visits dwindled during the Little Ice Age. But climate alone doesn't explain the violence hinted at in those last records. Recent archaeological work along the western coast uncovered Norse artifacts repurposed in Inuit settlements, iron knives melted down for harpoon blades, wool scraps stitched into sealskin parkas. Some sites show evidence of conflict, arrowheads embedded in longhouse timbers, Norse skulls with fractures matching Inuit club weapons. The heathen from the sea may have been Thule Inuit, ancestral to modern Greenlanders, whose expanding coastal settlements brought them into competition with the Norse for dwindling resources. Yet this theory has gaps. Inuit oral histories speak of trade with the foreigners, not warfare, and no mass graves confirm a genocidal end, the most unsettling possibility. A desperate retreat that became a ghost story. Tree ring data from Norway coincides with a surge in timber imports around 1420, possibly from Greenlandic ships stripped for parts. Letters from Danish merchants mention wild folk sighted in Iceland wearing tattered Norse garb, speaking a broken dialect. Could the last Greenlanders have attempted a return to Europe, only to perish at sea or be rejected as outsiders? The ruins whisper of a sudden departure. Half-carved chess pieces left on workshops, livestock bones with meat still scraped from them as if people fled mid-meal. Perhaps the truth lies in layers, not one catastrophe, but a slow unraveling of famine, conflict, and failed migrations, until the final survivor closed a door that would never reopen. Today, the Greenland Norse haunt us as a cautionary tale. Their church's foundations now sink into permafrost, their sagas reduced to footnotes. They challenge our hubris, the notion that any civilization is too resilient to collapse. As our own climate shifts, their empty villages stand as sentinels, asking what fragile threads hold societies together and how quietly the last light can flicker out. Recent excavations in Greenland's thawing permafrost are rewriting the final chapter of the Norse settlements, one fragile artifact at a time. As rising temperatures melt layers of ice untouched for centuries, archaeologists are uncovering everyday objects that paint a startling new picture. These communities didn't vanish overnight. A child's leather shoe, still laced tight, lies abandoned near a hearth. A half-carved walrus tusk, its intricate designs unfinished, rests on a workshop bench. Even more revealing are the fly larvae found preserved in dung layers, evidence that livestock survived longer than previously believed, hinting at a slow unraveling rather than a sudden catastrophe. The most telling discoveries come from midden heaps, ancient garbage piles that act as time capsules. Analysis of fish bones reveals a dramatic shift in diet, from land-based protein like cattle and goats to deep-sea species such as cod. This wasn't a choice, it was desperation. Soil samples show Norse farmers stubbornly replanted barley in fields that were freezing over, even as their yields dwindled to near zero. But here's the twist. Alongside these signs of struggle, researchers found Inuit-style seal skinning tools in later Norse houses. This suggests some settlers finally adapted, learning survival techniques from their indigenous neighbors after centuries of resistance. It's a poignant detail, one that challenges the old narrative of cultural isolation leading to collapse. Then there's the wood. Dendrochronology on roof beams from Valsey Church, site of Greenland's last recorded Norse wedding in 1408, tells a subtle story. Repair marks show settlers were still salvaging driftwood and even reusing ship planks a generation after contact with Norway ceased. These aren't the actions of a doomed people, they're the quiet resilience of a community buying time. Even more intriguing are the recently uncovered whale bones carved with Norse runes and Inuit symbols, proof of trade or perhaps intermarriage in the final days. What emerges isn't a single dramatic collapse, but a patchwork of survival strategies fraying at the edges. Some families may have sailed west, joining Inuit communities. Others could have starved in place, their remains lost to shifting glaciers. The haunting lesson for our own era: the Norse didn't fail because they ignored their changing world, they failed because they adapted too late. As modern climate crises erode coastlines and disrupt agriculture, Their fragmented retreat mirrors dilemmas we now face: when to abandon tradition, when to innovate, and how to recognize the moment when survival demands transformation. The melting ice keeps revealing answers, but the questions it poses are timeless. Tucked away in Sweden's National Library lies a book so massive, it's said to have required the skin of 160 donkeys to create its parchment. The Codex Gigas, or giant book, stands nearly 3 feet tall and weighs as much as a full-grown man. But its size pales next to its infamous legend that a single monk condemned to death for breaking his vows penned the entire manuscript in one night with the devil's help. The text itself is a paradox, a beautifully illuminated Bible juxtaposed with occult texts, medical recipes, and a chilling full-page portrait of Satan himself, grinning from ear to ear with clawed hands and a torso of scaly green flesh. The story begins in early 13th century Bohemia, where a Benedictine monk named Herman the Recluse allegedly faced execution for some unspecified crime. According to a marginal note in the manuscript, he struck a desperate bargain: to write the world's most comprehensive book in a single night to atone for his sins. As midnight approached, the monk's prayers turned to despair until Satan appeared, offering to finish the work in exchange for his soul. The resulting text is staggering: over 600 pages of flawless script, including the entire Latin Bible, historical chronicles, and even exorcism rites. Scholars estimate a single scribe would need at least 5 years of non-stop work to complete it, yet paleographic analysis confirms the codex was indeed written by one hand. The ink's consistency shows no variation, as if the scribe never paused to rest or even sharpen his quill. Then there's the infamous devil portrait, the largest such illustration in any medieval manuscript, dominating an entire folio. Satan crouches alone in a void, his twisted form framed by 2 blank towers that some interpret as the gates of hell. What unsettles historians isn't just the image, but its placement. It faces a glorious depiction of the heavenly Jerusalem, creating a visual clash between salvation and damnation. More bizarre are the erased passages nearby. Multispectral imaging has revealed ghostly traces of text beneath the scraped parchment, likely penitential prayers or confessional rites scrubbed away by later hands. Were these the monk's own words, deemed too heretical to preserve, or did someone attempt to cleanse the book of its infernal associations? Modern science has peeled back some layers of the mystery. Carbon dating places the vellum between 1200 and 1250, aligning with Herman's supposed lifetime. The ink, made from crushed insect gallnuts, matches Bohemian recipes. Yet the book's sheer uniformity defies explanation. No smudges, no corrections, no signs of fatigue, just 600 pages of uncannily consistent calligraphy. Some theorists propose the monk entered a trance-like state, possibly induced by ergot poisoning from moldy rye bread. Others note the text includes Slavic folk charms alongside scripture, suggesting the scribe synthesized diverse traditions into a single, feverish vision. But the codex's darkest secret might lie in its missing pages. Roughly 10 folios were cut from the manuscript right, where records suggest it once contained a guide to summoning spirits. Were these removed to hide forbidden knowledge, or did someone or something claim them as payment? The truth may forever linger in the margins, between the lines of gilded letters and the devil's knowing smile. One thing's certain: this isn't just a book. It's a covenant bound in leather and legend, daring us to wonder how thin the veil really is between devotion and damnation. Few books have left a trail of chaos as vivid as the Codex Gigas. After its creation, the manuscript embarked on a 600-year odyssey of theft, fire, and whispered curses that cemented its reputation as Europe's most notorious tome. In the dead of winter in 1594, Holy Roman Emperor Rudolf Roman II hauled the book from Prague's monasteries to his private collection, an act locals claimed awakened its dormant malevolence. Within a decade, his empire crumbled into rebellion, his sanity unraveled, and his court burned to the ground, Coincidence? Czech folklore insists otherwise. The manuscript's next keeper, Swedish General Konrad von Tilly, seized it as war loot during the 30 Years' War. His fate: a cannonball tore through his leg at the Battle of Rain, leading to a gruesome death by gangrene. Soldiers transporting the codex to Stockholm swore their ship nearly sank in a freak storm, its pages remaining eerily dry while seawater drenched everything around them. Once housed in Sweden's Royal Library, the codex became an agent of institutional chaos. A 1970 fire, ignited by faulty wiring, miraculously spared the book while reducing nearby archives to ash. Researchers handling it reported migraines and vivid nightmares, with one librarian documenting a recurring dream of green flames licking the margins. Even digitization efforts hit uncanny roadblocks. High-resolution scanners malfunctioned exclusively when capturing the Devil's portrait, their error logs displaying timestamps matching the exact moment the page was in frame. But the most chilling chapter unfolded in 2007, when the Czech Republic negotiated a temporary loan for exhibition. Transport required a custom-built, climate-controlled case with armed escorts. Days before departure, Prague's historic district flooded, an event not seen since 1890. During transit, the convoy's lead driver suffered a sudden stroke, and the backup truck's GPS failed, stranding the manuscript in rural Sweden for hours. Locals later claimed livestock in nearby fields refused to approach the stranded vehicle, their panicked bellowing carrying for miles. Yet the codex's true curse might be psychological. Archivists note that its sheer perfection triggers unease, no scribble errors, no ink blots, as if the text emerged fully formed from some unnatural source. The Devil's portrait, meanwhile, exerts a bizarre magnetism. Infrared scans reveal the vellum beneath it is unusually thin, stretched to translucency by what conservators call impossible pressure during preparation. Was this page always destined for its infernal occupant? Even skeptics admit the book radiates an uncanny presence. As one preservationist confessed after rebinding it, "You don't work on this thing. It works on you." Standing like skeletal sentinels on England's Salisbury Plain, the massive blue stones of Stonehenge hold a secret that defies logic. These towering slabs, some weighing over 4 tons, weren't quarried locally. Geological analysis reveals they came from the Preseli Hills in Wales, a staggering 180 miles away. For Neolithic builders lacking wheels, draft animals, or even basic metal tools, transporting these monoliths would have been like moving mountains. The how is baffling enough, but the why drag stones across rivers, valleys, and rugged terrain, unlocks a labyrinth of theories, each more intriguing than the last. Let's start with the journey itself. Modern experiments show dragging blue stones on wooden sledges would require hundreds of people working in unison, pulling across miles of unforgiving landscape. In 2016, archaeologists attempted to replicate the feat using Neolithic techniques. Even with modern ropes and carefully greased log rollers, the team managed just 1 mile per day, and that was on flat ground. The Preseli route includes steep climbs like the grueling ascent of Minid Preseli, where even today's hikers struggle. Some researchers propose an alternate path, water transport. The stones might have been floated on rafts down rivers like the Avon, then hauled overland for the final stretch. But here's the catch: Wales's waterways don't neatly connect to Salisbury. Portions would still demand back-breaking overland hauling, and no Neolithic boats capable of carrying multi-ton cargo have ever been found. Then there's the glacier theory. A faction of geologists argues Ice Age movements could have deposited blue stones closer to Stonehenge, saving the builders miles of labor. Sediment studies show glaciers did inch into southern England during the last Ice Age, but the critical question is, how close did they get? The nearest confirmed glacial debris lies 19 miles north of Stonehenge, still an enormous distance for Neolithic hands to manage. Even if ice did some of the work, the stone's precise placement in concentric circles screams intentionality, not randomness, but the real enigma is purpose. Why choose these particular stones? Petrographic analysis reveals the Preseli bluestones have a unique acoustic property. When struck, they produce resonant metallic tones unlike local sarsens. This discovery birthed the sound ritual hypothesis that Stonehenge was a Neolithic concert hall, its stones serving as giant lithophones in ceremonies. Folk traditions from Wales even speak of singing stones with healing powers, lending credence to the idea. Excavations near the quarries uncovered makeshift stone platforms, as if the rocks were tested for their sonic qualities before transport. Healing might offer another clue. Human remains buried near Stonehenge show signs of severe trauma and disease, broken bones, advanced infections. Some skeletons aren't local but come from as far away as the Alps, suggesting the site drew pilgrims seeking cures. The bluestones, rich in copper and other minerals, could have been ground into powders for medicinal use. Imagine it, a Bronze Age lourdes where the stones themselves were seen as conduits of divine healing. Yet the astronomy angle refuses to fade. The bluestone's arrangement aligns with solstices and lunar standstills, acting as a celestial calendar. But here's the twist. Recent laser scans reveal that many bluestones were once part of an even older Welsh stone circle, dismantled and shipped to Salisbury. If true, Stonehenge's first phase might have been a literal transplant of sacred geography, a holy site uprooted and rebuilt to claim its power. What emerges isn't a single answer, but a tapestry of possibilities. The bluestones weren't just building materials, they were vessels of belief, each theory, sound, healing, astronomy, a thread in Neolithic spirituality. Every time we think we've pinned them down, they slip back into mystery, as if the builders designed their enigma to outlast the ages, and in that, at least, they succeeded brilliantly. At the heart of Stonehenge's mystery lies an architectural precision so exact, it could pass for a celestial timepiece crafted by the gods themselves. Every winter solstice, the setting sun aligns perfectly between the towering uprights of the Great Trilithon, casting a blade of golden light through the monument's central axis. But this isn't just a pretty coincidence, it's a feat of engineering that required generations of astronomical observation. The heel stone, that solitary sentinel standing outside the main circle, marks the sun's rising point during the summer solstice, its shadow touching the altar stone like a sundial's needle. These alignments weren't seasonal decorations, they were critical rituals for a society that lived and died by the rhythms of the earth. Imagine the scene, hundreds gathering in the pre-dawn chill, breath visible in the air as priests chanted the sun back to life, its first rays piercing the sacred geometry like a key turning in a lock. But Stonehenge's magic wasn't just visual, it was sonic. Recent studies reveal the bluestones possess an almost musical quality. When struck, they produce resonant metallic tones that echo across the plains, a phenomenon documented in Welsh folklore as the singing stones of Preseli. Archaeoacoustic experiments show the monument's circular layout acts like a natural amplifier, creating eerie reverberations that could mimic the sound of a crowd or even distant thunder. Was Stonehenge a Neolithic concert hall where rhythmic drumming and chanting merged with the stone's own vibrations to induce trance states? The theory gains traction when you examine the nearby Durrington walls, a site littered with animal bones and evidence of feasting, perhaps the afterparty to these sonic ceremonies. Druid traditions add another layer of mysticism. Medieval texts describe Stonehenge as the gateway to Anon, the Celtic underworld where the veil between worlds grew thin during solstices. The arrangement of the bluestones, some believe, mirrors the constellations as they appeared during the Bronze Age, creating a terrestrial map of the heavens. Even the monument's infamous slaughter stone, once thought to be an altar for sacrifices, may have served a more poetic purpose. Filled with water, it could have reflected the night sky, turning the entire site into a mirror of the cosmos. The most tantalizing clue lies in the Amesbury Archer, a skeleton unearthed near Stonehenge with artifacts tracing his origins to the Alps. His burial contained the earliest gold objects ever found in Britain, alongside tools used for metalworking, an outsider with knowledge as rare as the stones themselves. Did he travel here to share forgotten technologies, or was he drawn by the site's growing reputation as a place of power? The answer might be written in the very soil. Geomagnetic surveys show hidden pits once held towering wooden posts predating the stones, suggesting Stonehenge began as a timber circle before evolving into its stone incarnation. Like layers of an ancient palimpsest, each phase reveals a society refining its relationship with the unseen, whether gods, ancestors, or the raw forces of nature. What emerges isn't just a monument, but a living machine. Its stones track time, its acoustics alter consciousness, and its alignments speak a language we're still deciphering. The true brilliance of Stonehenge's builders wasn't in hauling rocks across miles. It was in encoding an entire cosmology into the landscape, leaving behind a puzzle that refuses to surrender its last secrets. Every solstice, as the sun repeats its ancient dance with the stones, we're reminded that some answers aren't meant to be found, only witnessed. The Atlantic Ocean was calm on December 5, 1872, when Captain David Morehouse of the brigantine Dei Gracia spotted a ship drifting listlessly near the Azores. Its sails were tattered, its decks eerily abandoned, yet it floated perfectly seaworthy. No signs of fire, no hull breaches, no struggle. This was the Mary Celeste, a merchant brigantine that had left New York 8 days prior with 10 souls aboard, including Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife, their 2-year-old daughter, and a seasoned crew. What happened in those silent days at sea remains one of maritime history's most haunting puzzles. Boarding the Mary Celeste revealed a scene straight out of a ghost story. The crew's personal belongings lay untouched, including watches and jewelry. The ship's logbook was still in the captain's cabin, its final entry dated 9 days earlier with no hint of distress. A half-eaten meal sat on the table as if abandoned mid-bite. Most baffling of all, the lifeboat was missing, suggesting a deliberate and hurried departure. Yet the ship's cargo of industrial alcohol was intact, and there was enough food and water for months. If the crew fled, what terrified them so badly they'd risk open ocean in a small boat rather than stay aboard a perfectly sound vessel? One theory points to the alcohol. The Mary Celeste carried 1,700 barrels of denatured alcohol, a volatile cargo prone to releasing explosive fumes. Perhaps vapors built up below deck, prompting fears of an imminent blast. Captain Briggs, known for his caution, might have ordered everyone into the lifeboat temporarily, only for a sudden gust to separate them from the ship forever. Supporters of this idea note the cargo hatch was found slightly open, as if venting gases, but wouldn't experienced sailors recognize the difference between fumes and real danger? And why no scorch marks or residue if an explosion was feared? Others blame natural phenomena. The Azores are prone to waterspouts, tornadoes over water, capable of terrifying crews without leaving obvious damage. Seismic activity in the region could also trigger freak waves or underwater earthquakes, unsettling the ship enough to spook its occupants. Yet the Mary Celeste's structural integrity was flawless, with no evidence of a violent encounter. Even more puzzling, the ship's chronometer and navigation tools were missing, suggesting someone took them deliberately. Was this a calculated act, or did the crew believe they'd return? Then come the myths. The Mary Celeste's legend has been warped by time, tangled with tales of sea monsters dragging sailors overboard or Bermuda Triangle-style disappearances. Pop culture amplified these fabrications, painting the ship as a paranormal relic. But the truth is stranger than fiction. No monster could explain the meticulously logged weather reports left behind. No phantom force accounts for the ship's untouched provisions. The real horror lies in the mundane, the quiet, rational decisions that might have led to tragedy. Perhaps the most poignant clue is also the simplest, a child's toy found tucked beneath a bunk. It's a reminder that the Mary Celeste wasn't just a mystery but a home. What force could drive a father to wager his family's safety on the open sea? The answer, like the ship itself, remains adrift, a testament to the ocean's power to erase stories even as it preserves their echoes. Every detail we uncover only deepens the enigma, leaving us to wonder if some secrets are meant to stay swallowed by the waves. From the ghostly vanishing of the Mary Celeste's crew to the celestial precision of Stonehenge's bluestones, these 25 mysteries are more than just historical puzzles. They're testaments to humanity's insatiable hunger for the unknown. Think about it, every civilization, from the Inca stacking earthquake-proof megaliths to the Norse scribes of the cursed Codex Gigas, left behind riddles that refuse to surrender their secrets. These aren't mere gaps in our knowledge, they're invitations to wonder, to question, to keep digging. The Voynich Manuscript's uncrackable code, the Tarim mummy's silent journey across continents, the eerie alignments of Göbekli Tepe, each one whispers the same truth. History isn't a neatly solved equation. It's a labyrinth, and every dead end hides a story we've yet to uncover. What makes these enigmas timeless isn't just their age, it's what they reveal about us. The Baghdad Battery forces us to ask how many ancient technologies were lost to time. The Nazca Lines challenge our assumptions about pre-Columbian science. Even the Georgia Guidestones, modern yet shrouded in mystery, prove our need to leave breadcrumbs for future generations. Whether carved in stone, buried in deserts, or floating adrift at sea, these puzzles are mirrors reflecting our deepest fears and boldest ambitions. They remind us that curiosity isn't just a trait, it's the engine of progress, the spark that turned cave paintings into space probes. Now it's your turn. Which of these mysteries keeps you awake at night? Is it the haunting precision of the Antikythera Mechanism, or the jungle-choked secrets of the Plain of Jars? Drop your favorite in the comments, we read everyone. And if you think this list only scratched the surface, you're right. From the lost libraries of Timbuktu to the underwater ruins of Japan's Yonaguni, the world's still packed with unsolved stories waiting for their spotlight. Hit that subscribe button because we're just getting started. The past has more secrets to spill, and together we'll turn every